What's your name?
Priscilla.
You like Elvis Presley?
Of course. Who doesn't?
What are the kids listening to these days?
Bobby Darin, Fabian, and you.
What a movie, Sofia. The beauty of this movie for me is the way that you stay with Priscilla's perspective. And the story of this obviously starts with her book. So I'm curious when you encountered it and what you saw in her story that made for a movie.
Yeah, I thought it was such a wild story, and to hear her perspective of what it was like really for her as a young girl kind of growing up in such a, in Graceland and at that time. So I was just really struck by the human, relatable aspects of her describing her first kiss and being a new kid at school and becoming a mother. And I was really surprised with how relatable it is in these kind of universal moments that we all go through, but in this really, unique world of Graceland with Elvis.
So how did you think about some of the particulars of adapting it for the screen? Yeah,
I think we were trying to, I wanted to make impression of what her life was like at this moment of growing up, and it's such a big story, so how do we condense it into a movie? I thought to frame it around her time in Graceland. I knew I wanted the story to be Priscilla at Graceland, and I knew the ending. I wanted her leaving Graceland, leaving the gates, and I was so impressed that she had the strength to leave at that time, and so it was really important to frame it around that, and always, showing the emotional story of what she went through and her evolution.
Yeah. So Cailee, I'll go to you in terms of Priscilla's level of involvement with this project. You're playing an icon for starters, and then what emerged to you in terms of a character to play, and then from there, did it feel more or less daunting to take it on?
Well, it's sort of the greatest gift, but also the most incredible amount of pressure to take on in terms of knowing that she was going to be watching the film at the end of this journey. So obviously having that time with her and getting to sit down in front of her was such a really huge gift to have that, and taking those little sort of pieces from memories that she had on the first night that they met, or inside jokes, or just sort of watching her relive those moments. And she would sort of laugh like she was back there on that day again. So that was really special, and trying to put it together. And she gave a lot of support, and I think she felt like Sofia was a perfect person to tell this story. Sofia is sort of a master at saying so much with so little. I think those moments that we hang on with no dialogue says so much. The moment of her sort of wandering around as a young girl in Graceland by herself and trying to find her place in this world, or her putting on false eyelashes right before she's about to give birth. Like, it was a challenge, but I also had the pleasure to get to bounce off of, Jacob and what he was doing. So he made my life also a lot easier too.
Jacob, can you talk about finding the human being within Elvis? Because I think that's what's really striking about the characterization in this movie is it's very subtle, and it's, I think, a version of him I haven't seen before, both in the way he's written and the way you play him. So what was that process like?
It felt like Sofia kind of set the tone pretty early, because the emphasis was not on doing I've forgotten the word. No, I didn't want to do a caricature. Yeah, exactly. It was never the way it was going to go. So for me, it was more interesting to kind of, when he gets off stage and there's videos of him getting in the car and he just looks exhausted, and then I just wanted to, I tried to imagine what that video would look like as he walked down the hotel hallway and then went into his room and all his friends left him and it was just quiet, sort of. Tried to think about how did he sound, because I'm sure his voice wasn't down here all the time, because mine isn't when I go home as well, So I think it was just about trying to figure out like who the boy was behind the closed door, and Sofia kind of steered that, just perfectly.
How did you interpret Elvis's relationship with Priscilla.
Peter Gerlach has this great book called Last Train in Memphis, and you can sort of get the ages of him from a baby to the end of his life. And the one thing that's constant from the time he was this big was everything he did was with feeling and love and passion. It wasn't cerebral. It was a feeling, and I think that carries through into his romance. Like when he sort of saw Priscilla, he's just like a child, full of this like abundant love and force and power, you know. But it always rings true, if that makes sense. Everything he does is with that sincerity.
Stacey, I wanted to bring you in. You've worked with Sofia for a long time. What did your work look like, and what were some of the challenges going into the project?
We had probably upwards of 120 costumes for Priscilla, and
There was more costumes in, I think, page count.
Maybe.
I think I did that math one day.
And same with Jacob. He had a lot of costumes, and I think a big part of being able to make them and do all of that is that they were both so patient and collaborative, and helped me to understand where they were in this, you know, what their emotional place was in the story. And I had a great team that was able to help, and you know, we just were constantly churning clothes out like every day. You know, she had like 5 costumes every day, and Jacob had, I don't know, 5 costumes every day.
Was it difficult, Cailee, to orient yourself given all of the timelines and how intermixed it had to be given production?
Well, I will say, like, you know, like Sofia was saying, the hair, you know, you do all the research you can. You really try to map out the arcs. You know, how am I going to differentiate the ages? And, you know, the whole movie is the arc. So you try to get it right. But then once you're on the first day, you're just like, you're running around like a chicken with your head cut off, trying to keep your feet on the ground. But really, the costumes and the hair and the makeup were a real anchor in. You know, I'd move differently when I had, you know, the 50s sort of the petticoat, and then when I was in the massive beehive and the heels and the little dresses. So that was really interesting. It was such a essential final piece, and everything sort of clicking together and really kept us in line, like Sofia was saying, where we were in the story and where she was emotionally.
How was it talking with Priscilla about depicting that, and did you ever have any concerns in terms of artistic license or of the weight of getting it right?
It's the first time I've had that where I had to be torn between my creative expression and also the responsibility of I'm telling someone else's story who's alive, and I want them to feel good about it. So I always had that in mind, and I just wanted to treat all of the characters with sensitivity and respect. And filming scenes when she was so young, it helped that Cailee's in her 20s and wasn't a teen actress. And you know, we just tried to approach it with sensitivity and always, you know, say we want to tell her story and she deserves to have her story told, and do it without judgment. We shot out of order because of the time frame. We had to go by location, and so you know, Cailee would be a teenager in the morning and then pregnant in the afternoon, and many hours. These guys were such good troopers and never complained, and they spent so many hours in hair and makeup and then switching into other things. And
Not going to complain when I'm working with Sofia.
Yeah. No,
It's not going to
It was
happen.
like the best summer camp ever. Yeah.
There was a lot of movie magic and creativity that was really fun to be a part of.
I'm curious, as actors in this movie, what it was like to work with Sofia, with her at the helm.
I mean, there's no one else in the world that I would play Elvis Presley for ever. No way.
Brave.
Yeah, no, I remember Sofia was just like calm, like water. Everything was so smooth and simple, and she just captained the ship like you could just, it was like a trust fall, and you could just fall every day. Every single day it got easier and easier and easier. She had so much control and grace, and then you see the film, and you know, I sat down and watched it for the first time, and I was like, that's what it is. That's what you trust, you know. So I'm just beside myself. I'm just, you know, pinching myself.
She really like keeps us in. She put so much trust and freedom and keeps us in like a bubble, really protected us along the way. I'm sure there was lots of stressful things happening behind the scenes, but we never felt that, you know, there was...
And I think the biggest thing that we would say every day was like, does she think we're corny? Like we'd be like, because if anything's corny with Sofia, it's like you're out. So we like every day we're like, was that corny? Did I do that corny? Did I look corny in that thing?
I appreciate that, you guys. Try to make sure to keep the corn out.
You felt it was time for her story to be told. What do you hope people take away from it?
They're such an iconic couple, but I didn't barely know anything about her, and to hear her side of the story, and she's an important figure. And for me, I think whenever you can connect with someone else's story, and what I love about movies is being lost in someone else's life, and we can always gain something from, you know, knowing someone else's experience, and for her story to be told.
Beautifully done. Thank you so much.
Thank
you all
you.
for coming out.